Hello students. Now the next lab which we are going to perform today is configuring the NIC teaming in Windows Server 2012 R2. Now first we have to understand what is actually the NIC teaming. So teaming basically is nothing but combining two or more LAN cards together, and this can be done for various purposes like we want to provide load balancing. We want the reliability to be there, that is fault tolerance to be there, that if one LAN card fails, the same services will be available through another card to the clients. So there are different, you can say, the uses of NIC teaming. The first thing, the requirement is that if you want to configure NIC teaming in your Windows Server 2012, the first and most important thing is that your server should have at least, or you can say minimum, two LAN cards should be there. Without two LAN cards, that is minimum two LAN cards are required. Without two LAN cards, we cannot do NIC teaming process. So at least there should be two LAN cards available in your server machine. That is hardware LAN cards should be available. And if more than that, no problem. So, but minimum requirement is two LAN cards. So how to configure this NIC teaming? What are the different options which are available when you are configuring the NIC teaming? So whenever you configure NIC teaming, remember that there are two important modes which are available. So when you do a NIC teaming process, it will ask for you to select a mode that is called as a switch dependent mode, and another is switch independent mode. So when you talk about a switch dependent mode, it depends on the protocols that are supported by the external switches which are there, and based on that protocols which are supported by the you can say the switches which are externally used, the Cisco switches, or it may be a D-Link switch, or it may be a Netgear switch. So if they are supporting that particular protocols of NIC teaming or load balancing, then we can use the switch dependent mode, where everything depends on whether the switch supports it or not, and the controlling will be done from the switch side only. Okay. But when we talk about the switch independent mode, it is something which is not dependent on what type of switches you are using. It is fully, you can say, handled by the operating system itself. And when you say that switch independent mode is there, it again consists of two types which are available inside. It means there are two types of configurations you can do inside the switch independent mode. One is active configuration, and second is active standby configuration. Now first we will say what is actually active configuration. Active configuration, both the LAN cards will be active at the instant, means at an instant both the LAN cards are working, they are active, the data is flowing through them, and whatever the service you are providing, for example, if you are providing some services to the client, the services will be provided using both the LAN cards. So the load will get equally divided on both these LAN cards. So if you take an example that for example, if you take 1 Gbps is one LAN card, so if you are using active configuration, now your total bandwidth which is available is 2 Gbps, because there are 1 Gbps, two LAN cards are available. So the total bandwidth available, or the performance that we can get, the bandwidth will be 2 Gbps. If one LAN card fails, then automatically the performance will go down, because now if one LAN card fails, out of 2 Gbps, 1 Gbps is not working, and your services will be continued, but they will continue with some, you can say, the down performance, or with 1 Gbps performance. So in activity, both the LAN cards, when they are working, you will get a big good performance. Once any LAN card fails due to some reason, and it is not supporting, or it is not providing the communication, then the whole load will go on the another LAN card. So here it is something like when you start the, or when you configure this type of NIC teaming, then at the starting, when both the LAN cards are in a normal working state, then the performance will be high, and once one LAN card fails, then the performance may go down. But if you go to the second configuration option which is available, that is active standby. So active standby means what? Even though two LAN cards are there and you have used the two LAN cards to create a NIC team, means team of two LAN cards, and that is NIC teaming what we say. But at a particular instant, only one LAN card will be in active mode. So even though both the LAN cards are of 1 Gbps, if you set it as a active standby mode, then what will happen? One LAN card will be always active, and the data you are accessing or the clients which are accessing the services or data will be accessed using that 1 Gbps bandwidth only. So even though you have two LAN cards, the bandwidth which is available will be always 1 Gbps. The LAN card which is active, if it fails, then only the standby LAN card which you have set will become active. So if you see the case now, whenever the LAN cards are working properly, then the speed was 1 Gbps. When one LAN card fails, then also the speed is 1 Gbps. So there is no difference between the normal state or the failure state. At both the instant, you will get the same, you can say, the bandwidth which is there. So that particular method is called as a active standby method. So these configurations now we will see. So you can see the Windows Server Manager dashboard. We have already said that everything can be configured from here. Click on local servers. Now when you go to the local server, on the first screen only, means on the top screen only, you will see one option which is there, NIC team. You can see the both two LAN cards are available in our machine. Just you can see that NIC teaming, it is now disabled, it is in disabled mode. Click on this option. Now you can see it is opening that window of NIC teaming configuration. This is something which actually we will use the teams we have to create here. So inside the team option, click on task, and there is option called as a new team. So I will select new team. It will ask you the name of the team, so you can give a name which is the purpose of that NIC teaming. So I will say internet connectivity. So some name we have given to that team, that this NIC teaming we are doing for providing a better internet connectivity to the clients. Then you have to select the member adapters. Now as we know that minimum 2 adapters are required, we have 2 adapters. There may be 4, there may be 6 adapters also. So whichever LAN cards you want to make as a member of this team, you have to just select that LAN cards. You have to just tick mark the checkbox which is there. And if you want to see the additional properties where we can set the mode, where we can see how it should operate, you can see teaming mode where it is switch independent. And if you select the second option, there is something called as a static teaming and LACP. So both these options are switch dependent, and this is a switch independent mode. In switch independent, if you click on load balancing, you can see that what type of load balancing you want, whether it is a dynamic or Hyper-V port or hash. So by default we keep it on dynamic. And now the important thing that we said, that when you are working on a switch independent mode, there are two configurations which are available: active and active standby. Now you can see the option which is by default selected is standby adapter as none, all adapters active. So this is something called as active state. So this is the configuration. If you want active configuration, you have to select this option, that is none, and your standby is none and all adapters are active. But if I select the standby adapter as Ethernet 0, then automatically what will happen? Ethernet 0 will be in standby mode, Ethernet 1 will be in active mode. Or if I select Ethernet 1 as a standby adapter, then Ethernet 0 will become active, Ethernet 1 will be in standby mode. So automatically, if you select any of this option, this becomes a active standby configuration. And if you select the first option, that is none, then it becomes a active configuration. So remember how active configuration can be configured and how we can set the active standby configurations. Okay. And the primary team interface, so internet connectivity, the name is the default VLAN which is applied. Once it is done, just click on OK. and now it is saving that team which is created with the properties which we have set. So that team will get created with the properties that we have configured just now. On the back side, now you can see that it is showing you the team is created, internet connectivity, the status it is showing, some warning it is showing, okay. And then the switch independent mode, teaming mode is switch independent, load balancing is dynamic, and it is showing how many adapters are there inside this team. So there are two adapters which are available inside this team, and both the LAN cards which are there. So it is showing you that there are two LAN cards which are there. One is Ethernet 1, another is the Ethernet 2. Now you can see both, it is showing active. So both the LAN cards now are in active state, and this is something called as active mode. If you want to, you can change, if you want to change the properties, you can go to the properties option. If I say that Ethernet 0 as standby adapter, which is a active standby mode, I say apply and I say OK. So if I say like this, you can see on the right side now, Ethernet 1 is active now and Ethernet 0 is on standby mode. So this is called as a active standby configuration in switch independent mode. So normally it is your choice whether you want active configuration or whether you want active standby configuration depending on your requirement. So this is how we can configure the NIC teaming, and which is really important thing, which is related with the networking thing inside the Windows Server operating system. So hope all you have understood that how to configure NIC teaming inside Windows Server 2012. So thank you. We will see some other videos also. In next video, we will see some other configurations related with Windows Server 2012. Thank you, students.